Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. I'm Jamel Harpness, the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lenders, and People's Pharmacy. Folks, don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. All right, without further ado, let's give a warm TDH welcome to our very special guest today. We've got Denise Carey coming on from home. We're going to be discussing what we can do to tackle homelessness in Bermuda. Let's give a warm TDH welcome. Hello, madam. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for your patience. Teo talks a lot, so I mean, kind of. Yeah, I was just listening. But no, before we jump into the meat of the conversation, thank you for the work that you do. And I really want to ask you, one of the things, it was all these different days just now, and Teo wanted to touch on Do It Yourself Day. Do you have something that you are proud that you've done yourself, like you've taught yourself?
I like to do everything myself. I like to try. I always like to try new things. So yeah, right now we're doing some mini renovations on one of our properties. And next week, we're going to all learn how to tile. So I am over the moon and cannot wait.
All right. Okay. Putting me to shame. Okay. I like to watch tiling get done, but okay. All right. Send us some video. We'd love to see it. But no, thank you for doing this. Thank you for coming on. And thanks for engaging. And audience, if you have any questions or comments for Denise Carey, please send them through. We'll get through as many as possible. Before we get into the meat again, just give the audience a bit of background about Home and its purpose.
Okay, so HOME was founded by our chair, Arthur Whiteman, and he has been a long-term resident in Bermuda, and he was very concerned and remains concerned about the homelessness situation in Bermuda. So from that, we registered almost 4 years ago, and we have a very committed board, and our mission is to end homelessness in Bermuda.
Okay, simply enough. And I think many would agree that this is something that we can all get behind. You mentioned homelessness in Bermuda and ending it, but one of the challenges, and as much as I read about what you all do, and you've been on before, different members of your team, I still don't quite think that Bermudians understand what homelessness is. I think many people just think it's someone sleeping on a sidewalk. Can you just define what homelessness actually is?
Yeah, we do not have a legal definition for homelessness in Bermuda. And for your audience, if we do not know what it is that we are trying to address, it's almost impossible to figure out how we are going to end it. So one of the first things Home worked on was defining what homelessness is. So we have adopted an ethos, which is a European typology on housing and housing exclusion, and it breaks it down into 13 subsections. So I will share what the subsections are, but I'll take it a step further and share the organizations that also provide support and the consequences of that subsection, because there is financial cost associated with not ending homelessness. So we have the rough sleepers, which traditionally people think of the guys down on Front Street or staying in the parks, but there is rough sleeping across the entire island, along the railway trails, behind bus terminals, bus stops, behind hedges. And that means that we have Salvation Army, we have all of the food feeding organizations. We have Bermuda Police that gets involved, sometimes corrections, we have City Hall that get involved. So there are a lot of agencies and a lot of dollars that we are investing by not addressing the rough sleeping. And in addition to that, because they're outside and they don't have access to regular medical care, that means they are accessing KMH only when it's an emergency, which is again a cost. And that also means that MWI will also come in to the spectrum of supporting the rough sleepers. So not ending homelessness is very expensive. Then we have the first step in, which is our night shelter at Salvation Army. Salvation Army has been super committed to providing that emergency shelter, but their responsibility didn't extend beyond the emergency shelter to support individuals in their transition into our community. That is our job.
Mm.
Then we have organizations like Bermuda Housing who introduce social housing. And that's another category of persons who move into temporary housing with it intended to be temporary, but they've stayed there for generations. And
Mhm.
that too costs money because financial assistance gets involved, medical gets involved, and
Mhm.
we continue to spend in places where we should be investing in prevention.
Mm.
Then we have individuals who are victims of domestic violence, and that traditionally tends to be women. But as years go on and the information is being extended, we are learning more that men too become victims of domestic violence. So
Mm.
we need to find housing for them. But beyond that, we have to find housing for the persons who are perpetrating.
Mm.
Then we have persons who are aging out of systems. So persons turning 18 who may not be able to continue living within their family and they access DCFS or they're on foster care. And because of the level of competition out there currently to secure housing, they are being left out.
Mm.
Then we have our seniors who are on fixed income. And so when they turn 65, they cannot afford a rest home at a cost of $5,000 per month. And we have seniors who've been living overseas for a long period of time, even if it's a short period of time. When
Mhm.
they are transitioning back to Bermuda, they may or may not know that they cannot access financial assistance until they've been in Bermuda for at least 365 days.
Interesting.
Then we have the subpopulation who are transitioning out of institutions. We have persons who are coming out of Department of Corrections at a cost of housing them there for $110,000 per year. And once they're finished their sentence, there is no guaranteed housing for them to
Mm.
continue with the work that they have invested in themselves to reduce their risk of reoffending.
Mm.
Similarly, we have persons who are circling our city every single day
Mhm.
and they are navigating mental health. And when they finally get to a point where they're willing to go in and receive support from Mid Atlantic Wellness Institute, again, they are faced with the same barrier of at that point of discharge, there is no guaranteed
Mhm.
housing for them.
Yeah.
The last couple of weeks, I've seen our community have increased discussion about KEMH. This problem has been going on for a number of years where persons of no fixed abode move into KMH. They are living in KEMH at a cost of $1,000 per night. So per person, we are looking at over $30,000 per month. And again, it's we are paying for
Mhm.
the consequence of not having affordable housing. We have persons who are living in derelict buildings throughout our community, no electricity, no running water. We have individuals living in cars. We have persons who are gainfully employed, but staying on our couch, staying in our spare room. That is not sustainable.
Mm.
That causes the breakdown in relationship. That causes families to fall apart because you said you were only going to be here for a couple of months. Then we have individuals who are being evicted through the courts. And we understand that landlords have obligations, tenants have obligations. But when the court issues that order, where are those people going? If
Mm.
Bermuda Housing is publicly saying we have a wait list of over 220 people, where are they going? And
Mm.
then finally, we have persons who are coming to Bermuda and they are non-Bermudian and they do not qualify for FA or Bermuda housing, but they're here and they need to get fed 3 times a day and they need access to healthcare and food. So
Wow.
the problem is huge. However, what is super important and what I am most proud about our community is we have started to define it and have a better
Mm.
understanding of what it is. So we're getting closer to where we can now start putting things in place so that we can end homelessness permanently.
I mean, I think you answered a lot of questions that people may have had today. It's I was volunteering at a homeless shelter in Rhode Island some years ago, and much of what you just said when I was, doing an orientation and understanding, they would always act like, you know, people think most homeless people are just lazy and don't want to work. And so,
Yeah.
they were like, no, one of the challenges there at the time was people aging out of the system, people trying to reintegrate into, maybe coming out of prison or something, trying to reintegrate into society. And some people just falling on hard times, right? So it's interesting to see that there are a lot of similarities with Bermuda. But with that said, just changing gears, your 2024 annual report shares that over 1,100 people are experiencing homelessness now in Bermuda. And I think you kind of just explained how we got here. Comparatively speaking, this is not a good number for Bermuda percentage-wise, right? So what is being done to address this, not just by whom, but the greater community in supporting your efforts?
Bermuda actually has one of the highest percentages of homelessness around the world. Around the world. So what we are doing is we worked with our government, with Minister Tanay, the Ministry of Youth, Social Development and Seniors, to co-produce a plan to end homelessness. We have brought all of our community partners around the table to look at the gaps and identify how we can close those gaps. And it starts with the collection of data. So the government has sponsored licenses for us to utilize the same cloud-based case management system. That will ensure that we are able to identify one version of the truth, the exact number of persons who are homeless. We are working with the individual government agencies, the third sector organizations, to create a standalone piece of legislation so that we can have a legal defined subsections of homelessness. What we are recommending is that we introduce mandatory reporting so that organizations are obligated to respond when persons are reporting that they are threatened with or nearing homelessness. And within that, we are working to establish a duty of care so that persons who enter the system move throughout the system systemically, and that they are not moving into our emergency housing and they're living there for 10, 20 years. So that means that we need to create an inventory for housing so that we know exactly how many units are in our community, what the capacity is of those units, what work needs to be done to bring them online. That means that our focus should remain on introducing a minimum of 100 new units per year. That's not renovating old units and adding that as a count. It is literally 100 new units. And if we remain on this trajectory, that would mean over the next 10 years, homelessness will be ended permanently. But I will say that ending homelessness is not a point in time. It is going to require long-term commitment by not only our government, our international business community, our general members of the community, our donors, but then also a long-term commitment from those who are experiencing homelessness.
So, yeah, and an audience, if you have any questions or comments, I'll get to your questions and comments. You can keep sending them through. But since you mentioned that, I mean, there are people in the community who are tuned in right now, and they're probably saying, "Well, what can I do? I'm here trying to make ends meet myself." But what can the community do to help with ending homelessness?
The immediate short answer is housing first. In order for us to end homelessness, we need to bring new units online. In the immediate, if I were to say what to do today, it is, if you are a landlord, make sure that you have a lease, make sure you're aware of your obligations, communicate with your tenant. If you are a tenant, please make sure to hold your landlord accountable. Make sure you are paying your rent on time. Make sure you are taking care of your apartment. And that might seem simple and obvious, but that is how we reduce the numbers of persons being threatened with homelessness and reduce the likelihood that they are going to court. On a day-to-day, what we also need is for persons to reach out to him and provide opportunities. We need opportunities for housing, from a boarding house style to long-term rentals for studios and one-bedroom apartments. But we also need opportunities for employment. What we do not want to do is address one problem, that is housing, and create another problem, which is over-reliance on financial assistance.
Mhm.
So we do need the opportunity to employ people with lived experiences and be patient, because again, it's not a point in time. It is a process that the entire community is going to need to commit to and understand that as we bring people in, that's going to mean that we need to work with them and provide the support that they need for as long as they need it.
Indeed. Thank you for that. Let's go to the audience. We've got quite a few questions here. Audience, if you have any more questions or comments, please send them through. Rashida Godwin says, seems to be more systemic than anything else. Is something wrong with the system as opposed to the people?
That is the best question I have had in the past 4 years. Thank you for asking that question. Homelessness is not a personal choice. Homelessness is a systemic failure of the community. And that is because part of it is we've all been scared. That's one piece. We didn't know what to do. We think that the problem is so big that we didn't know where to start. And in all fairness, homelessness competes with education, sports, services for seniors, healthcare, but there must be room for all of it. So it has been quite a journey, meeting one-on-one with every single one of the organizations that touch the populations for homelessness. And we are currently on a very good path with creating one front door. So you guys had the opportunity to give feedback on the plan to end homelessness. We are looking forward to the final plan being published in the next coming weeks. And with that, we will be introducing a microsite where the community will be able to go on. They'll be able to track our progress. They will know exactly who has ownership for the some 129 recommendations. And you will have greater opportunity to hold us accountable to deliver.
Indeed. Thank you for that. We've got Charles H. Jeffs II. He's asking, what percentage of our homeless population would Miss Carey say are working homeless?
A larger subsection. I don't think I can give you the exact stat right now, but I will say Jamel hit the nail right on the head a few moments ago. I assumed coming into this space that there would be a low level of motivation and I would be spending considerable time trying to encourage people to work. That myth has been debunked 3.5 years ago. This population is very hungry. They are very eager to contribute to their housing, to employment. So there is actually a smaller population of persons who are capable of working, but not.
Mm. How can there's a lot of people tuned in right now. How can they, I guess, not just volunteer their time and services, but get involved in ensuring that they're a part of the community that's working with you to eradicate homelessness? What can they do? How can they reach out and get involved?
Yeah, I would encourage you to come and visit home, see what it is that we're doing and how it is that we operate. I am confident that you will be pleasantly surprised with our approach to ending homelessness. We are an organization where we teach individuals how to do, and then we stand next to them to support them as they do it. When you come, you will get to meet our population, and from that, you will actually be able to tell us how you can contribute. So we are currently doing some minor renovations on one of our properties on Union Street. We need tradesmen who are willing and able to come to teach, to support, and then hopefully continue to work with some of these individuals. If you're willing to come in to volunteer, to assist with plumbing, electrical, carpentry, we would love to have you. I think that it is super important that we teach everyone who is experiencing homelessness how to manage on their own. And that starts with the relationships that they are able to build with members of our community.
Indeed, Denise, thank you so much for making time to have this most important conversation with us. Definitely want to make sure that we're keeping it front and center to highlight that we do have an issue, but also I don't believe in discussing things unless we're discussing solutions as well. So I
Absolutely.
think you've given the community a lot to think about this morning as to the role we each play in reversing this systemic problem that we have. And percentage wise, it does not look good. And we have to ensure that everyone knows this. Homelessness doesn't discriminate. And I think that's another thing that people need to understand, right? So,
Yeah.
um,
We have from 18 right up to 70, 80-year-olds. Persons enter this space of homelessness at different ages in their lives, different levels of education, different levels of mental health. But what is most important is that everyone in our community has access to affordable housing. That is the number one priority.
Indeed. Denise, thank you so much. We'll definitely be in touch. Don't be a stranger. Keep us informed. Let us know what we can do on the platform. But have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And
All
thank
right.
your viewers.
Thank you. Denise, Carey, folks, if you appreciated the conversation and discussion, is doing the work out there. Make sure you give us a like, love, follow, share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. We'll take our final break. Be back in 2 minutes, 8 seconds to wrap it up. Stick with us.